Hello everyone, welcome again to the Swerve HQ. My name is Amy and today we are going to be covering something that a lot of people have a lot of questions about, and that is sweeteners. So there are so many different sweetener options on the market these days, it can be difficult to know which one is the best sweetener for you. So today we're going to take an in-depth look at all of these different sweeteners. Now, all of these are natural sweeteners, so you don't have to worry about any artificial sweeteners being talked about in this video. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first sweetener we're going to talk about, of course, is going to be Swerve. So Swerve is a natural sugar replacement, and it's actually a blend of 3 different ingredients. So the first ingredient is erythritol, which is a sugar alcohol that's made by fermenting the glucose from corn. And then we also have some prebiotic fibers in the blend that allow baked goods to brown and caramelize just like sugar. And then the last ingredient in Swerve is just some natural flavor from citrus. It's 0 calories, doesn't affect blood sugar at all, so this is a really great option for anybody with diabetes, on the keto diet, or anyone that's just trying to find a healthier sweetener. So one question we get very often here at Swerve is, what is the difference between plain erythritol and Swerve? And it's a few different things. The main difference is that plain erythritol is only 70% as sweet as sugar. So as you can see between these two here, you're gonna need to use a little bit more erythritol whenever you're baking and cooking. Another big difference between plain erythritol and Swerve is that you're not gonna get that full baking and cooking functionality with plain erythritol because it's not gonna caramelize just like sugar would. So you're not gonna get that beautiful golden brown color. Basically, your baked goods might look a little bit different than if they were to have been made with Swerve or sugar. So the next sweetener we're gonna talk about is xylitol. Now, xylitol is another sugar alcohol that's made from corn or birch trees. It does contain a few calories, about 10 calories per teaspoon. It has a glycemic index of 7, so gonna affect that blood sugar a little bit, not near as much as sugar, but it does have a little bit of an effect. And its sweetness level is the same as sugar, so it does measure cup for cup just like sugar. But a couple things you should know about xylitol: whenever you're baking and cooking with it, it does have about half of the digestive tolerance of erythritol. So whenever you are using it in a baked good, moderation is key. Also, one thing that's very, very important to remember about xylitol is that it's completely toxic to dogs. So you have to be super, super careful if you have any tooth products with xylitol or any baked goods that are made with xylitol. You have to keep them away from your dogs because it can cause liver failure and be toxic to them. So the next sweetener we're going to talk about is allulose, and this is considered a rare sugar because it only occurs naturally in a few different foods such as raisins or wheat. And it does contain a few calories, and it has to be labeled as sugar on the nutrition facts panel, but it is considered non-glycemic and does not affect blood sugar. So great health attribute for anybody with diabetes. It's not really widely available. You're basically gonna have to order it online, and it's pretty expensive at this point as well. Okay, so moving on to our high intensity sweeteners here, the first one we're gonna talk about is Stevia. Now, Stevia has gained a lot of popularity in the recent years. It's extracted from the Stevia plant as Reb A or stevioside. It's 0 calories, doesn't affect blood sugar at all, which is a really great attribute of it. So one thing that probably most of you know about Stevia is that it is super sweet. It actually can be up to 300 times as sweet as sugar. This is the equivalent of a half a cup of sugar, and you can see that's a very small amount. For that reason, it just makes it really, really tough to use in baking and cooking. This is mainly gonna be used for drinks, smoothies, puddings, things like that where you just don't really need the functionality of sugar. So it's really important to read your labels and kind of know what you're buying whenever you're looking for a good stevia. So the next high intensity sweetener we're gonna talk about is monk fruit. Now, monk fruit is an extract that comes from the Lohan Guo plant in China, and it's currently only produced in China. It's 0 calories, doesn't affect blood sugar at all, which is a great option for anybody with diabetes or looking for a 0 calorie sweetener. It also has been shown to have some antioxidant activity, which is great. But then again, it's another very high intensity sweetener, not quite as sweet as stevia. It's about 150 times as sweet as sugar. So drinks, smoothies, yogurt, things of that nature. Another thing to note with monk fruit is that some people get a little bit of a licorice aftertaste or even like lingering sweet taste. People say it's not as intense as stevia, but still something to take into account. You might want to sample it first before you buy a whole bag. Just keep that in mind whenever you are trying this new sweetener. So now we are moving on to our unrefined natural sweeteners. Now these all contain sugar, these all contain calories, but they're considered a better option than white table sugar, and we're gonna get into why in just a little bit. So the first one we're gonna talk about is honey. And honey is made by bees, as you probably know. The bees collect nectar from different flowers, they bring it to the hive, and then the worker bees produce the honey. Honey has been shown to provide some vitamins, minerals, enzymes. It has some antimicrobial properties, and it can even help with allergies if you're using a local honey, which is pretty cool. It has about 6 grams of sugar per teaspoon and about 20 calories. But again, it's still sugar. It still is going to contribute calories and sugar. So just something to keep in mind whenever you're using honey. So the next sweetener we're going to talk about is maple syrup, which is pretty similar to honey. It is made from the sap of maple trees, primarily in Canada. It does have about 15 calories and 4 grams of sugar per teaspoon. And maple syrup does supply some minerals. It has some antioxidant benefits associated with it, which is great. Its sweetness level is going to be pretty similar to sugar, maybe a little bit sweeter, depending on, what type of maple syrup you're using. And you could use it in baking and cooking, but again, because of that, maybe be a little bit sweeter than sugar, you might need to use a little bit less. With 4 grams per teaspoon, that can add up kind of quick, especially if you're dumping it on pancakes. Just something to note there. So now we're going to cover coconut sugar. And this is another sweetener that's kind of gained some popularity recently, especially in baking and cooking. Now, coconut sugar is made from coconut palm sap. It does have about 15 calories and 4 grams of sugar per teaspoon, very similar to maple syrup. But it does have a lower glycemic index than sugar, only about 30, as opposed to sugar that has a glycemic index of 65. And then when we're talking about sweetness level, it is about the same sweetness level as sugar, so easy to substitute in baked goods. You can also use it in your coffee, in your tea, things of that nature. However, it does have a bit of a caramelly flavor, so it is going to slightly change the flavor of your baked goods a little bit. And then again, just remember, coconut sugar is a source of added sugar. It is going to contribute calories, added sugar to the diet, so moderation is key when using coconut sugar in any of these sweeteners. So we have finally made it to our last sweetener, which is molasses. Now, molasses is made by boiling sugarcane. It does have about 20 calories per teaspoon and about 3 grams of sugar. And molasses does supply some vitamins, minerals. It's probably most well known for its iron content, and its sweetness level is going to be a little bit less sweet than sugar. It might be about 70 to 80% as sweet as sugar, so you may need to use a little bit more in a recipe. And its best applications, mainly gingerbread, because it has such a really strong flavor. You wouldn't want to use this in a lemon bar recipe, for instance. So hopefully this information was helpful for you. Thank you for taking this deep dive into all of these different sweetener options with me. Obviously, we love Swerve. Swerve is the ultimate sugar replacement. It is 0 calories, doesn't affect blood sugar, great for baking and cooking, measures cup for cup just like sugar, caramelizes like sugar, and just tastes great. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Like this video and subscribe if you enjoyed it. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, guys.